Alrighty, we are live. I'm gonna go ahead and wait for folks to get in here. Give people a little bit of time at least. We have got some fun stuff on the agenda for today. Hey, let's go. Congrats. Yeah, as you can see, we got some stuff to cover today. Yeah. First we'll do the lineup review and then we'll head into the Monday night two gamer. Should be a fun one to cover. I'm pretty excited for it. Yeet. So as you can see, we took down the power sweep on DraftKings. That's the 3 entry max, $150 entry. I believe it's a few thousand entries, 3,000 or 4,000. Appreciate it. Thanks for the congrats. And we took it down with a stack that we mentioned, Jung and I mentioned on the show on Friday. It was a Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown stack. And in this one, I went with sort of a game stack with Darnold, Jones, and Jefferson. And my reasoning there is that if Minnesota scores a lot of points, I'm pretty much guaranteed most of them, if not all of them, by running Darnold and Aaron Jones and Jefferson. Do you normally use uniques on Classic and or Showdown? Yeah, I do. I'll tab over here and kind of show you the actual build that got me there. But for now, yeah. And then we also mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs as our preferred Lions running back over David Montgomery, given the script of the game, where Detroit would have to be playing from behind and he'd get more usage in the pass game work. And that played out in ownership as well. So Jahmyr Gibbs was super under-owned and David Montgomery was more owned than him. So to me, it was a clear pivot to where I could play Jahmyr Gibbs and get unique that way. So pretty good lineup. Obviously, double tight end. Njoku came through with us with a touchdown at the end of that game. That was super clutch. And the Seahawks as well, scoring a defensive touchdown as well. Definitely sealed the deal. But as you can see, I mean, I was clear of second by, over 10 points there. So a bit of a sweat towards the end for sure, but ended up pulling through and, we did it. So let's go ahead and look at my actual build that I ran. So you can see my results. I built this 9:50 a.m. on Sunday, and these are the lineups I got. And the way I build 3 entry maxes, I sort of know which teams and stacks I want to target. So what I do is I go through, and I knew I wanted to play a Sam Darnold stack. So I would go through and untick everybody besides Sam Darnold. And I left Aiden O'Connell because we have a bug right now where players with apostrophes break stuff. So I left him in, filtered down to just Sam Darnold, and I got rid of Aiden O'Connell this way with a trash can. And you can already see that the winning lineup I had ranked out up top. But further from there, what I do is I usually take 20 lineups for my 3 max of the stack I want to play. So I would lock Justin Jefferson, and I would lock Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that was my core stack. That's a stack I wanted to build around. And I'd go through and I'd look at these different lineups. I'd look at their projection, their ROI, and then also over here, the ownership sum and the win probability. So as you can see, this top lineup was a bit lower owned, which I liked, had a higher win probability, and the ROI was the highest out of all of these. So I looked through it and I saw it had Jahmyr Gibbs, which I thought was a great differentiator, as well as a mini correlation stack between Jalen Coker and Zach Ertz. Obviously, the Jalen Coker play didn't play out, but it didn't matter to us anyway. So overall, this was a super highly correlated lineup with a Minnesota-Detroit game stack, as well as a mini correlation stack from the other popular game on the slate, which is the Carolina Commanders game. And then obviously David Njoku I thought was a fine play. The Browns didn't really have many target options. I figured he'd at least get, 6, 7, 8 targets and hopefully fell in the end zone, and he did. So everything worked out for us. We got lucky in our defense. I don't really, neither Jung nor I really care about what defense gets played, but I did have a lot of Giants and a lot of Dolphins exposure. So pretty lucky that this ended up being a Seahawks lineup. Obviously, they scored a defensive touchdown, and that worked out really well. As far as this question, do you normally use uniques on Classic and or Showdown? Yeah, I do. So that's sort of my 3 max or single entry way of building, where I know what stack I want to play and I filter down to it and pick a lineup from there. If I'm doing MME, so if I refresh this page and I'm building a 150 set, I do it a bit differently. So I'll take my 150 lineups and I'll look at my exposure for quarterbacks. Like I got 28% Goff, 23 Darnold, 9% Love, all that stuff. Obviously, like, see if I wouldn't want to play Aiden O'Connell, I'd trash can him. And I do this for all my columns. I'd look at my running backs and say, Aaron Jones, 25%, that looks good. Chuba, 61, that might be a little high for my preference, so I'll tone him down to 45, apply exposure, and I'll go across that for all of my columns. And then what I can do is if I don't like the way exposures are shaking out, I can bump up uniques to 2 or maybe 3, and that helps me get different in between my lineups. So, for example, here we've got Goff, Jones, and Hubbard in these lineups, and then the rest will be differentiated. But if you bump it up even higher, you'll get more differentiated plays, which isn't necessarily good or bad. It just allows you to spread out your exposure among more people. So that's sort of how that works. Yeah, all in all, pretty good weekend for me. As you can see, it just happened that lineup that I played was the very top of the sim that I ran. So you can see it right here. It scored out really well in my sims. I used, if I go back to here to this page, these aren't the settings I'll be using for the Monday night game, but these are the settings I ran for that. I used 85 ROI, 10 ownership, and 5 win percentage, and that's the way the lineup score graded out. I don't recall my exact projection minimum or minimum lineup salary, but they were close to defaults. Yeah, let's go look at the stats on this one specifically. So throughout the generations, let's see. How many generations did I run here? I think I only ran 1 generation, which is kind of shocking. It was probably a bigger contest. So I ran 1 sim, which I don't recommend. Usually the more generations you can run, the better. But we can see that it cashed 10% of the time, top 1%, 3% of the time, and then it won 0.02% of the time, which is, fairly high for a lineup in a contest that size. And obviously the ownership sum being lower than other Darnold stacks kind of led me there. And I think the lower ownership got down to just Jahmyr Gibbs and Jalen Coker. Those are my differentiator plays. I mean, the rest of the plays, I'm not off the board super heavily. These are all high-owned plays. It was just Gibbs and Coker that were different. And obviously Jahmyr Gibbs was the one that, got me there in the end. I can see, I guess Ertz wasn't super popular either, but I liked him a lot. And the Seahawks too at 1%, but I don't really factor in defenses on that type of stuff. All that being said, yeah, let's move on to Monday night. Talk about our 2-gamer here, and hopefully we'll build another winner. That's all you can ask for. So we will talk about the less exciting game first because I don't have too much to cover from it, and that is the Chargers and the Cardinals. Fairly high total. I didn't kind of expect the total to be this high because the Chargers typically play that Harbaugh type of game where he likes to run the ball, he likes to control time of possession, and he sort of relies on the defense to win him games. So, and that's kind of what we've seen from the Chargers so far this season. I expect more of that tonight, where they're going to be running the ball out with J.K. Dobbins, and then also Kamani Vidal, who's carved out more of a role in that in the backfield for the Chargers. So we could definitely see both of them. Why do I leave 0 on projections? That's a good call. So in lineup scoring weights, there's a field for ranking projection. And the reason I leave it at 0 is because I don't really care about how the median projections score out, which is what these are. I'm more interested in how the ceiling outcomes come to play. So when you add lineup scoring weights to projection, you're basically saying that I value the median projection of this lineup more so than its ROI or its ownership or any of these other fields, right? Because I'd have to take away from ROI to give points to projection, right? I'm basically saying that I value median projection more than ROI, which I do not. But it's a way you can play. It definitely matters more, like maybe in cash games or double ups, triple ups. You might want to weigh these differently, obviously. But that's sort of why I don't use a value on projection, is because it's only valuing the median projections, and I care more about ceilings. Back to this game. Yeah. So far Chargers defense has been really good. They haven't played like a ton of world beaters, but they have been keeping their opponents to, 2 touchdowns a game on average, which is pretty good. And yeah, J.K. Dobbins has been sort of leading the backfield for them. I expect him to get a majority of the role, especially near the goal line. And I expect the Chargers to sort of run the ball, and Arizona is going to have to be playing catch up. That being said, James Conner on the other side does see a ton of opportunity on the team. Really good role for him, around 20 opportunities a game in close games. And the goal line work for him is pretty much exclusive. Not many other people fighting him 5 yards and in for touches. Marvin Harrison Jr. is back. Obviously a great play on the slate. I think his ceiling is super high. And if you're expecting anybody to score 25 or 30 points on this team, it's either going to be Kyler, Connor, or Marvin Harrison. Like Trey McBride is pretty good, but his ceiling is not as high as Marvin Harrison. He does have a higher floor. So if you're playing cash games, you might want to go to Trey McBride. But if I'm looking for a ceiling play, 7K is kind of hard to stomach, but I think he's pretty easy to fit in. From this game specifically, my favorite ceiling play is probably Marvin Harrison, but you'll see when I build and we get to that, I'm going to be focused more on spending salary on the other game, and I likely get to players like McConkey or Dobbins for the defense from here. Speaking of McConkey, he leads the Chargers with targets per game, probably their wide receiver one for this. We do have where is he at? We should have DJ Chark back this week. I don't see him. I might be missing him or loaded projections wrong, but yeah. Other than Lad McConkey, I'm not too interested in the Chargers receivers. Maybe Josh Palmer, maybe Semi Fehoko, but for the most part, it's gonna be Lad McConkey as their wide receiver one. What else do we have? Yeah, as far as QBs from this game, I could see you playing Kyler Murray in tournaments. I don't really want to play Justin Herbert in tournaments. He hasn't really shown a ceiling this season, and I think the way that the Chargers set up their offense with the run game, I don't think it makes Herbert an attractive QB option when we have Kyler Murray. Why am I blanking? Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Baker Mayfield on the slate, who all have much higher upside either through the run game or through the passing game than Justin Herbert does. So I will be fading Justin Herbert as my QB selection, and for the most part, I'm really only looking to get like one or two plays from this game. And that brings me to the more exciting game for tonight, the game that I'm going to be game stacking in my tournament lineups, and that is the Ravens and Bucks. Obviously, higher total here. We've got the Buccaneers as home dogs here by about a field goal. And the way the Ravens defense sort of sets up is they're really stout against the run. And we have Rashad White back in the backfield, but we're going to be seeing most of the carries for him, I would say, a majority, but then we're also going to be splitting between Bucky Irving and potentially Sean Tucker. Not really sure how that's going to shake out, but like I said, I'm going to be more interested in the passing game on the Bucs side of the ball just for the way that the Ravens defense sets up. Pretty stout against the run, so I'm liking to get to Mayfield, Godwin, Evans, all the stacks here, Sterling Shepard, and tight end. Throw a negative correlation on Dobbins and Herbert. Yeah, I would for sure because you're going to either get rushing. Yeah, you like the banner? I liked it too. I just found out we could do that. I should mention that. So if you are new to the site or want to try out our tools, we are running promo code AceWin. That'll get you 15% off your first month. Just go over to acemind.io, enter that promo code, and sign up, and you'll get access to the same tools I'm using here, the same tools I use to build my winning lineup here. So, yeah. Congrats on the win. Thank you. But yeah, like I was saying, negative correlation on Dobbins and Herbert is probably a good idea because either Dobbins is running in for a touchdown or Herbert's throwing a passing touchdown. So if you're playing Herbert in a lineup, I definitely would not pair him with Dobbins. I'd rather pair him with a passing game. In this game, however, Ravens are allowing about 24 points a game to opponents, and the Bucs are obviously scoring loads through the air. Both Evans and Godwin, I think, have gone, or one of the two has gone over 20 DK points in every game of the season so far. So I'm looking to go right back to the well there. We've got more ownership coming into Godwin, a little bit less coming into Evans, but roughly the same projection. Obviously, it's hard to predict which of the two is going to go off, but I'm going to be game stacking this. I'm going to be playing both of them in most of my lineups. Really just getting there all over the field, including Kate Otten, including Sterling Shepard in my Baker Mayfield stacks. Kate Otten's got 4 out of 6 games with respectable point finishes that would be good in a tight end spot here. And he's got 6 red zone targets on the season. So definitely possible for him to fall in the end zone. And at 3,600, in the way that it pairs with my Baker Mayfield stacks I'm going to play, I really like that option as like a salary saver and a correlated piece because I'm going to be paying up for people like Chris Godwin, Derrick Henry, Mike Evans. On the Ravens side of the ball, since I'm playing the Tampa Bay pass side of the game, I'm probably being playing mostly the rushing side here. Like I want to play Derrick Henry in a lot of my lineups and kind of say that since I'm not playing Lamar Jackson and I'm not playing a lot of the stacks with him and the wide receivers, I'm betting on the Ravens getting most of their work done through the ground through Derrick Henry, and that Derrick Henry is scoring touchdowns, and it's not Lamar Jackson running them in, and it's not like Zay Flowers or Mark Andrews catching the ball. We're going to be playing mostly Derrick Henry and saying that the Ravens are getting their work done through the ground. And I will have lineups with Derrick Henry and some pass catchers in my Baker Mayfield stacks as part of the game stack, but I'm mostly focusing on getting to Henry. I think for a lot of people, like 8K is kind of a hard swallow for running back on the slate. People, might go to J.K. Dobbins, I think is maybe the most popular. Yeah, like 6,400 here for J.K. And then they might pair him with Derrick Henry, but I also think people are going to save salary and go to either Connor, White, or Bucky. Maybe even like the pass catchers for Justice Hill, maybe the rookies, Kamani Vidal. I do see most people not super willing to get there and spending more on their wide receiver and spending more on Lamar Jackson, stuff like that. But, 48% obviously is still going to be owned on a 2-gamer, but under J.K. Dobbins, who I still like, favorite, and gets a pretty good workload. So I'll be having some J.K. Dobbins as well. But Derrick Henry is probably my favorite option from the Ravens. He's averaging about 20 carries a game. He's got 9 touchdowns through 6 games, and he's playing over half the snaps. So it would not shock me at all for him to have a over 100-yard, 2-touchdown performance here. And on a 2-gamer, it's more about just outscoring your opponents more so than it is like getting the best points per dollar value. So I'm totally willing to eat his price tag and get to him there. What else do I have to say from here? If you are going to pass catchers on the Ravens, I think let me filter back down to the game here. If you are going to play like the Lamar Jackson passing stack, it's obviously Zay Flowers up top for target share and routes run and all that. He's clearly the wide receiver 1. That being said, this might be a slate where you want to pair him with a tight end, and the tight end situation here is not super clear. They run a lot of 2 tight end or 3 tight end sets between Andrews and Likely and Charlie Kohler. So I wouldn't even be opposed to running like Lamar Jackson plus Zay Flowers plus 1 or 2 of the tight ends. It's not super popular and it probably doesn't win very often, but it's a way to differentiate yourself from the field, which is obviously what we're trying to do on a 2-gamer. So let's go ahead and build some lineups here. I will run, what do we got here? Where's all the big contests? We'll run the first down 70K entries. I changed these from default, so let's take a look at them. I've got 48,000 as my min lineup salary, so leaving a bit more salary and room for lineups to be generated. I've got a bit higher percent off optimal again, just because it's a 2-gamer and I want to be a little bit different. I've got 90% of the field using stacks, 60% using double stacks, and then 3 players versus the defense. So let's go ahead and run that. I'll go back through here and give you a few of my favorite picks down the board. I mean, there's not really much to choose from, is there? But we can go ahead and look at them, and I'll kind of tell you what I'm thinking. Yeah, Vidal is tempting for leverage off of Dobbins. Yeah, so Dobbins is coming in at 60 or almost 70% on the slate. And I totally get it. He's cheap, and he's got a good workload as a favorite. Great amount of red zone work and gets tons of rushes and carries. But all you, like Jung said, is need if J.K. Dobbins gets injured or they get to a big lead and Harbaugh doesn't want to run J.K. Dobbins into the ground. I think Vidal's snap count has increased quite a bit over the last week or two, and he's carving out that role for himself. So I think one way you could do that here is in your player correlations. We'll add a correlation between Dobbins and Vidal. And we could set like a negative 0.5 correlation, which is a pretty strong correlation, but it feels right to me. And then what we could do is we're not going to change the median projection on Vidal, but we will bump his standard deviation to maybe like 7.5. And that just gives him a wider range of outcomes on this slate. And that's a way where instead of changing his projection, he's still projected for 4.85, but we do give him a higher ceiling, which allows him to kind of sneak in a few more lineups through the simulations. So if you want to play that route, we can definitely do that. And then another way we can do it is when the sim finishes, we can ensure that, we have Vidal and, at 5 to 10% of lineups. So he's going in with 7% right now, which I think is kind of fair. So if you want to get over that, we could set him to a minimum of 10% of lineups. And that allows us to get a little bit of leverage off the Dobbins lineups if those don't work. But like I said, I think the way that I'm going to build leverage on this slate is going to be through game stacking. So you'll see once the sim's done running, there's going to be a lot of lineups that sort of pick 3 to 4 to 5 players from each game and tries to get the best of both games right, which is a way you can play. And it works sometimes, but given the disparity between these two games, we've got one with a super high total and the one with a 44 total, which I think might be a little high. I kind of expect the Chargers Cardinals game to be a bit slower, more defense oriented and more running game oriented. So fewer plays, fewer snaps. I kind of expect that to go under, and I kind of expect this game to shoot out. So what I'm going to do is build my roster with as many players from the Ravens and Bucks as I can and leave only 1 or 2 roster slots left over to play, like Chargers defense and J.K. Dobbins, or Chargers D and Vidal, or Chargers D and like Ladd McConkey, or whatever. Basically, like 1 or 2 slots only are going to be allocated for me to that Chargers game, and the rest I'm going to put all Bucks and all Ravens in. And that's a way to get unique through roster construction rather than playing like the ownership game or playing a weird stack. I'm just going to be playing as much as I can from that game. And that's going to be sort of where I hang my hat on the slate. Any questions or inputs from you guys or things you want me to cover while we wait for the sim to run here? I think we'll get a lot of Sterling Shepard in this run. I think he's sort of carved his way as the wide receiver 3 for the Bucks behind Evans and Godwin. If we go to the Bucks, yeah, we got Sterling Shepard. He's kind of out snapped and outran routes for Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer, but doesn't mean they're off the board. But I definitely like getting to him. He's only 5%, and he's really cheap, so it allows you to jam in some more high price players, and he fits well with Baker Mayfield stacks. So are you going to cover Showdown as well? Probably could. Take a look at it. I wasn't really planning on it, but same stuff I said sort of applies here. We'll look at the Chargers Cardinals quick. I don't have any projections loaded, but basically the way I would be building this game for Showdown is probably through like a J.K. Dobbins captain, or like a Kyler Murray or James Conner or Marvin Harrison captain. And I'd probably be looking to play at least a kicker and a defense. And I'd probably be looking to save a bit of salary between like $500 and $1,500, I think. And mostly playing this game to be lower scoring. Probably run like a 4-2 stack either side, or a 5-1 stack. Those tend to be more winning than people play them at. Something fun to look at. You would kind of have to consider some of the off-the-board plays here. DJ Chark. It's hard to find them here when I've got no projections loaded in, but like Kamani Vidal, I think would be a really good showdown play for this game. Marvin Harrison obviously has a super high ceiling. Kickers and defense definitely in play here for sure. Will Dissly, I think, is another person I probably won't get to on the showdown or on the main slate, but on the showdown, I think he's probably viable. How do you do uniques with showdown? So for me, that depends on what I'm doing at captain. If I'm locking a captain or getting really condensed in my pool, I'll probably run 1 or 2 uniques. And that's just because there's fewer players in a player pool to mess around with. So if you go up to like 3, 4, or 5 uniques, you start getting really off the board really quick. But if you are locking in one player at captain, that's already 1 roster slot defined. So now you only have 5 others to play with. So like a min unique of 1 or 2 is probably fine there. Typically, I don't really enforce uniques unless I'm looking at my lineups and I feel like they're too condensed on plays, which isn't a bad thing. Like being condensed on plays is fine. But if you want to sort of throw darts out there and spread your exposure out, you would increase your uniques, set max exposures on players, that sort of thing. Coming up on the Sims here. It only says 3 minutes and so, but it's been running for longer than that. It should wrap up here pretty soon. We'll let it go. Probably, honestly, I think I do have a run from earlier we can look at too. Yeah, from today at 10. Oh no, that was Sunday at 10. I probably ran it in dev. No, here, 2Gamer. Here it is. Yeah, okay. So these are more or less the same inputs and stuff that I ran in this one. Oh, I just got done running. Let's use that one. Do you always keep user lineups checked even if you don't import lineups? Also, do you normally use 5 and 5 on the contest generations? Yeah, so he's talking about these options over here. So I always keep these on, keep user lineups. If you don't upload any lineups, it doesn't have any effect. So the default's on. But if you do add your own lineups here, either imported from an optimizer job or imported as a CSV from another site, you would definitely want to leave that ticked on. So that way, in between generations, it keeps your uploaded lineups and they don't fall off the board. And as far as number of generations and lineup holdover percent, I think 5 and 5 are fine. Obviously, the more generations you can run, the better. Depends on the contest size you're running. So like this 1,000 entry contest, you could run a lot of generations, probably 10 plus. And I would recommend doing that. But on these larger contests, just the amount of time the sim has to run is fixed. So it only gets through, I think that one only got through 2 or 3 generations. If we look, I think I got through 2 or 3. But basically I just kind of leave them there and I let them run as long as they possibly can, because the more generations you run, the more accurate your ROI is on these lineups. But let's take a look at this and kind of show you how I would build for this slate. So I'll choose my lineup set. Let's just say I'm max entering 150 lineups. And what I'm going to do is I only want to play Baker and Lamar lineups. And I'm going to favor Baker here. So I'm going to set my Baker exposure to 75%, and that'll leave 25% for my Lamar lineups. And that narrows down my QB pool, right? Then you're like, well, how do I game stack? How do I ensure that I'm playing game stacks and not, a lot from either side? And the way we'll do that is by filtering our primary stacks to be Baltimore 3+, and then Tampa Bay, I want 4+. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the congrats. I saw you won 100K with Coker. Should I be picking him up in my Dynasty League? Yeah, you should do that. Let me know what Dynasty League it's in, and I'll try to join it. But yeah, so filtering down your primary stacks. So like saying I don't want to play Baltimore 1, 2, or probably even 3, but I'm fine with Baltimore being a 3 stack because the production can be so condensed. Doing this will allow us to only play stacks that are large, so like primary stacks that are large. And then the way you actually get the game stack is going through your secondary stack, and you see like we have a Chargers 1, a Chargers 2, Chargers 3. We don't want to do that. We want to be playing only this game for our primary and our secondary stack. So I'm unticking all of the Arizona and Charger stacks, and I want my secondary stacks to be at least 2 players. So leaving everything else, hitting apply, and that's going to filter down my lineups, as you'll see here. Like this lineup, we've got 5 Ravens, 2 Bucks, and we've got 1 Charger and a defense, which is perfect, exactly how I want it. Like here, we've got 1 Cardinal and a Cardinals defense. Cardinal, Charger, and a Cardinals defense. This one a little bit skinnier than I'd like, not as much of a game stack as I've got here. So that's a TB4, Baltimore 2. I could go ahead and say, like, for Tampa Bay, I want at least 3, and that would fix that. And then from here, I've got my 150 set, and all I would do, I'm going to go through and just kind of massage exposures. Like, I'll check my J.K. Dobbins. We've got 63% Dobbins. I think that's fine. Derrick Henry, 67. I like that. Connor, 25. One player we were looking at, right, was Vidal. We've got 0% Vidal. So I wonder if I can fit like 5% Vidal in these lineups. And yeah, it looks like we can. So if I scroll down, you can see I got some Vidal lineups in there. Maybe I want more. Maybe let's see if we can fit 15% in there. And yeah, we can. So that's a way we can go through things. Obviously, playing Kamani Vidal opens up a lot of salary, so we get a lot of Derrick Henry with him. Kind of liking how this is setting up. I don't think I really want to play a whole lot of Cardinals defense. I'd rather be on the Chargers side, or Bucks, really, for that matter, or Ravens. So what I might do is filter out Ravens and Bucks. I'm okay playing the Cardinals, but I'd probably want more Chargers and Cardinals. So we can look, we got 61% and 39. I might just flip those and do like 60% Chargers, 30% Cardinals. And yeah, I mean, that's a real nasty quick look at how you can build lineups and build game stacks. How's our QB exposure looking? Still good? Yeah, 75-25. Yeah, I mean, you can take this 150 set, throw it in some contests, and see how you do, you know. Mike Evans, we've got 60% of. Godwin, 89. Otten, pretty popular in our lineups, really popular, which makes sense because we're playing a lot of Baker Mayfield, and we're saving salary so we can get to players like Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, and Godwin in the same lineup. Yeah, so pretty short show for me today. Obviously, it's only 2 gamer, not a whole lot to cover, but hopefully you guys got some insight onto how I built this lineup and how I found it, and then as well how I'm attacking the 2 gamer and building game stack lineups. Are there any questions you guys have as far as like how to build game stacks or how to build lineups for tonight? If so, put them in there and I'll make sure to read them. Otherwise, if you're rewatching this, you know, later on, or you're new to the site, be sure to head to AceMind.io. Again, we're running a promo code AceWin, and that'll get you 15% off your first month. So go there, use the tools. Oh, dude, I'm so glad you mentioned NBA, dude. I'm ready for some NBA tomorrow. Running Kyler stacks tonight. Chargers were all for against the pass last year and haven't faced a good offense yet. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Vegas seems to have this total bumped up higher than people expect, including myself. So, you know, I don't think I can run, you know, Cardinal stacks in good faith tonight, but he's going to be lower owned. He has rushing upside like Lamar does. Yeah, and like you said, you got to get weird on a 2 gamer. So, you know, if you wanted to build those, obviously throw Kyler Murray in here. We can take a look at some of those. It's going to be all messed up because I still have my filters applied, but yeah, I like the Kyler Murray shout against the Chargers. And then you could game stack if you want, come back with Dobbins, come back with McConkey, get weird with the running backs if you want. Should leave you a bit more salary. Obviously, if I played Arizona, I'd want to play like Kyler Murray plus James Conner plus Marvin Harrison or Trey McBride just to capture all the touchdown upside from that team. Basically just outscore the opponent. Yeah, anyways, it's a lot of yapping for me. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate all the congrats on the lineup yesterday, and let's go ahead and win another one today, huh? How about that? So hope to see you guys up top. Pop into the Discord and ask questions if you got them. But other than that, that's it for me. Good luck tonight, and yeah, peace.